afternoon to all of you and welcome to the third workshop of Jumpstart 2021. So let me give you a small introduction on what Jumpstart is. Jumpstart is a really great opportunity for early stage startups as well as mature stage startups, where we give them, for early stage startups, we validate their business idea, and as for mature stage startups, we connect them with renowned investors in the country. So as the first step of Jumpstart 2021, we are hosting the series of workshops where we are hoping to equip you all on the with knowledge and expertise on the subject of entrepreneurship. So we started from the basics. We started from problem identification on how to properly identify a problem in society where you can come up with a good business solution. And also, yesterday we taught you on how to develop a business canvas model. So today, everything is about finance. So before moving to the workshop, this time is dedicated towards our banking partner, Bank of Ceylon.
Bank of Ceylon, bearer of the nation's proud lion crest, is honoured to be named Bank of the Year 2021 Sri Lanka by the globally renowned The Banker magazine UK. We salute all Sri Lankans who have empowered our journey to victory.
Starting off with workshop number 3, as I mentioned earlier, today's workshop is about finance, bookkeeping, and fundraising. And let me introduce the speakers for today's session. So our speakers will be, first of all, Mr. Supun Kavindra, a business analyst, ERP at ZILLIONe e-business solutions, and also Mr. Akalanka Ranathunga, former senior product manager for small and medium enterprises at Seylan Bank PLC. And both members of Sasnaga Sansada Foundation, our knowledge partner for Jumpstart 2021. So moving on to our session will start with Mr. Supun Kavindra. Mr. Supun, handing over the proceedings to you.
Yeah, thank you, Indiri, for the introduction. And it's a great privilege for me to discuss you all during a meeting like this. So hope I'm audible, right? And visible too.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, moving on to the topic at large, let me identify yourself. So all of the audience is composed of the achievers, right? Achievers Rotaract Club, right? So all of you are...
Not just achievers, it's members of the entire Rotaract Council, including this event is open to the public as well.
Nice. So you are coming from the management background, or all of you are coming from separate backgrounds like biology or maybe science students like this?
We come from different backgrounds, including
different backgrounds. Okay, nice. So so today I'm going to discuss about the entrepreneurship and what you mean by the bookkeeping and how the bookkeeping and accounting will be influence the entrepreneurs, so how to succeed with the bookkeeping and finance. So, and after that, Akalanka will be doing how the funding and the finance will be boosted to the business. So like that. So let me share my screen. Hope you can see my screen. So yes, as you know, who is an entrepreneur? It's better if you could answer with a guy who is not coming from the management background. And I would like to make this event like a interactive session rather than being like a lecture. So if you could support me with that, then it would be nice. So can you please, apart from Winry, can you please explain who is an entrepreneur? Somebody. Loshini? Don't look at my slides and just explain your ideas. As per your understanding, who is an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is someone who can solve a problem, and for a problem, they'll introduce a solution as a business.
Okay, nice.
That is entrepreneur on my side.
Okay, good. So your answer is perfectly correct, but actually not perfectly. Around 75% your answer is correct. So simply, an entrepreneur is a person who set up a business or a business taking on financial risk in the hope of profit. So as ZILLIONE mentioned, entrepreneur is like a person who is going to provide a solution. That's not the complete answer. But when it comes to an entrepreneur, he should have all the skills. Let's say in these days, you might see cricket matches, right? Watch cricket matches like LPL. So just imagine Wanindu Hasaranga. He is very talented in bowling, the world #1 T20 bowler, and very talented in batting as well, and even the fielding as well. So like Wanindu Hasaranga, when it comes to an entrepreneur as well, he should have all the characteristics, like all the skills, maybe management skills, maybe. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can hear. Yeah, Roshan. I think maybe a mistake from Roshan's side. Okay. So when it comes to an entrepreneur, he should compose all the skills like management and finance skills, and let's say the human resource management skills and the conceptualization as well. So when it comes to an entrepreneur, he should be a passionate one. Passionate means he should have a passion in order to introduce a product and then to spread that product with the market and to spread that product within the globe. He should have a passion. Maybe a failure. In the very first days, it may be a failure, but he should have the passion to win the world at a certain date, right? And a business savvy. Business savvy means he should have all the understanding when it comes to a business, right? Maybe the financial skills, maybe the marketing skills, every aspects he should have the potential. And he should be a confident guy. Confident means he should understand there may be loopholes or there may be failures like COVID situation. Now, most of the businesses got collapsed, and most of the big and giant companies also cut their labor force because of this COVID-19 situation. So with that entrepreneur should have the confidence to face whatever the problems arising with the market or with the environment or whatever the business environment arising, or all the issues arising in the business environment. They should have the confidence to go or move beyond with that, with managing all the risk and all the risk, right? And they should be a proper planners. Right now, if you have studied management for your advanced level and ordinary level, you know now when it comes to management, there are 4 skills, right? Planning, organizing, controlling, and directing. Okay. So now planning means he should plan what is his target. And after that, he should organize what are the resources that they are going to utilize in order to achieve his targets. And after that, leading, he should guide his subordinates towards their target. And after that, he should have the controlling power as well. If there is any mistake or if there's any loophole, then he should have the potential to sort out that problem as well. So like an entrepreneur as well, they should have all those skills. And they are always on in the sense they are always on the game. On the game means they are always on the track in achieving his target, right? And they are money managers. So as you know, money is the main resource of the business. So without proper handling of the money within the business, nobody can survive. Now, as an example, now you might have the business, the company DCSL, right? Distilleries Companies of Sri Lanka, that liquor manufacturing company owned by Mr. Hari Jayawardena. So it's a cash cow business now, generating millions and billions per day. But still, sometimes, some days, it's working at an overdraft position. That means they are coming with a negative cash flow position. But still, it is the highest profitable company in Sri Lanka, right? So that is money management of the user, of the like the owners, right? And they never give up. Entrepreneurs should not leave the business, whether it is profitable or whether it is loss making. They should not leave. They should have a courageous determination to achieve some sort of a target, right? So that's all about the entrepreneurship. I think you got a small idea about what you mean by an entrepreneurship. And after that, let me move on to importance of entrepreneurship in Sri Lankan context. Now, as you know, Sri Lanka is a developing country. So for a developing country, entrepreneurship is the main that if you need to enhance the living standards and the living conditions and the employment opportunities so likewise all those things, if you need to enhance the living conditions, then the entrepreneurship development is the ideal solution, right? So why it is important to the Sri Lanka? Entrepreneurship plays a major role in Sri Lanka economic development. So as per my understanding, not actually understanding, as per my research, today morning I got to know that according to the statistics of Ministry of Industry and Commerce, it suggested that 75% Sri Lankan enterprises fall into SME. SME means small and medium enterprises. That thing we can imagine. Only around 300 or 350 PLCs are there. What do you mean by a PLC? Public limited company. The registered companies in Colombo Stock Exchange. It's a very limited amount. So apart from those, let's say 350, apart from that 350 companies, all those companies are not listed companies. They are operated by a single or a two single owner or maybe a few owners, right? So around 75% of the owners, 75% of the businesses are falling into SME category, small and medium enterprises. And from that, 52% of the gross domestic product is supported by or contributed by those 75% SME businesses. And 45% employment opportunities, right? It's not a small amount. 45% employment opportunities to the general public is not a small amount. So that's why this entrepreneurship and the small and medium enterprises are very much important to the Sri Lankan context. And employment opportunities to the labor force. Now, let's say our Sri Lankan universities and other universities as well, they are not promoting these entrepreneurship skills to the students. So most of the students and most of the graduates are trying to get their degree or get their professional qualification and to work for somebody or to work in another company, just to go to the work at 8 o'clock and come again home by 5:30. So that's their business routine. So that's okay, but that's not the development for a country. So in order for you to develop your country, you have to have a clear idea how to develop my GDP, how to develop my country's GDP, like that. So still the better solution is the entrepreneurship. And then ability to improve the living standards with wealth. Yeah. So if you are a business owner or if you are an entrepreneur, then you have the opportunity to give some job opportunities to the people around you. That's a good opportunity. So, and after that, ability to change with global trends. Now, as you know, Sri Lanka is an Asian country and our technological proficiency is very at a low ebb when it compared to the European and American countries. So that's why we cannot compete with those countries. So when it comes to an entrepreneur, you should have the skill and you can get the skill to bring those type of technologies towards the country as well. Now with this Zoom application and Teams applications, now before this COVID situation, we didn't use these things, no? But after this COVID situation only, these applications and these online platforms came into the power, right? So that may be an entrepreneurship. And after that, why entrepreneurship fail in Sri Lanka? It's a widespread topic that we need to be discussed actually. So the first one, marketing myopia. Marketing myopia means, as I mentioned earlier, an entrepreneur should have the skill to all the aspects. But here, in most of the situations, our entrepreneurs have only the skill to introduce their product only, but they don't have the proper skills to market their products, right? So within couple of months or couple of years, they might fail because of that failure to market their products, right? And inferior quality service. Assume like this. Now, while you are traveling on the road, you see an Italian food restaurant, right? So even I haven't tasted any Italian food, then I think to go to that shop and taste. But once you enter that shop, nobody is taking care of you. No, the stewards are not coming towards you. then you are alone. Nobody is coming to you. Then what do you think of that quality of the service? Maybe the product or maybe the meal is very delicious, but their service is at a low ebb, no? Then are you going to that shop again? No, right? So that's why the quality of the service is very inferior. That's why that business is going to fail. Their service is not offered very well. And after that, the major component or the major factor that we are going to discuss throughout the session is a lack of cash management skills. So most of the entrepreneurs or most of the businessmen, let's say, they don't know how to manage cash, right? Now, assume a small retail shop, a small retail shop, then they might sell, right, products like bread and buns, and again stationery books, and again cricket balls, and after that toffee and everything in a retail shop now. So they might sell. Maybe the business is earning higher profits, right? But at the end of the day, the Mudalali, the owner also withdrawing products that he wants to consume, right? So after that, then he might think my business is not profitable, every day losing money. He doesn't think of his drawings. He doesn't care of his drawings. That's why his business is loss making. Maybe assume now, apart from the drawings, his business is at a profitable situation. So that's why his cash management position is not at a good position. His cash management skills are not sufficient. So that's why the major reason behind the entrepreneurship failures. So now most of the cases, women like who is not employed, assume a woman who is not employed, a woman who is not employed, then most of the women like to start shops like saloons, no, and fashion designing centers, those things, right? So after that, once the business become growing, they will spend lavishly taking other products for their personal consumption and paying the school fees of the children. And after that couple of months, they might think, now my business is not good, it's not earning well, I have no money to spend within the business, like that. So that's not a good position. That's why the failures are there, right? And the founders' attitudes. Founders' attitudes is a major thing behind the entrepreneurship failures. Founder should be a positive guy, not a negative guy, right? And team related matters. So if the owner is not a good person to manage his team, then the team will get away from the entrepreneur or the business. Then the business will immediately collapse. So that's why those are actually the few reasons behind the entrepreneurship failures. And after that, let me move on to the bookkeeping. So our major topic for today is bookkeeping and accounting. So what do you mean by bookkeeping? Let me ask this question from, not from Lavashini, Ashan Viladdarage, do you have any idea about bookkeeping? Are you there, Ashan? Or else Kaumini? I think Kaumini is also not there. Okay, Lodia, what do you mean by bookkeeping? Do you have any idea?
You're asking me, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So bookkeeping, I think where we record the transaction, where the business take in a day-to-day operation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So bookkeeping is something like that. So when it comes to bookkeeping, let me read my slide. Bookkeeping involves the recording on a regular basis of a company's financial statements. With proper bookkeeping, companies are able to track all information on its book to make key operating, investing, and financing decisions right now. Now, bookkeeping means Now, when it comes to a business as well, when you assume a big company, they are also keeping their accounting records. That's why they are in a position to analyze their profitability. But let's say in these small and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka, which is operated in Sri Lanka, are they operating, or are they keeping their books, or are they keeping their financial records? No, right? That's the major thing behind their failures. So they don't know how to analyze their profitability. They don't know how to analyze their cash flow position. They don't know how to predict their future cash flows even. So that's not good. So that's why this bookkeeping is that much important. So maybe it's a handheld book. Now, when it comes to the technological development, we have some accounting packages as well. But still, if you could maintain your books, or if you could maintain your financial reports in a manual handled book either, then it would be nice. Then you know how to analyze your cash flow position. So before moving on to the accounting, let me discuss about the business entity concept. So business entity concept, you might have heard of this thing earlier. It's a small thing. Business entity concept means the owner and the business are two separate organizations, right? That is not understood by most of the businessmen. That's why they are recording his transactions with the business transactions. And after that, at the end of the day, they say it's loss making, right? So this is the basic concept in accounting, business entity. The business entity concept states that the transactions associated with the business must be separately recorded from those of its owners or other businesses. Doing so requires the use of separate accounting records for the organization that completely exclude the assets and liabilities of any other entity or the owner. Right. So are you aware of the accounting equation? Can somebody tell me the simple basic accounting equation? Loshini?
Assets equals equity plus liability.
Yeah, that is a simple accounting equation. Assets equals equity plus liability. Just forget about the term liability. Then the owner introduces, or owner opens, or owner introduces some sort of capital to start up a business. Then let's say 100,000. Then the business is having cash amount of 100,000 and the owner's state of the business, that is the equity portion, also 100,000. So that is the simple accounting equation. And after that, he is obtaining a bank loan, not he, the business is obtaining a bank loan. Then only that liability comes to the accounting equation, is being added to the accounting equation. Then assume now you obtain a bank loan of 50,000. Then again, your cash amount goes up. Then your total of your cash balance will be 150,000. And after that, equity remains same, liability will be added by 50,000. So the equation mark, the right hand side of the equation mark is 100,000 plus 50,000, and the left hand side is 150,000. Your accounting equation is getting balanced, right? So that concept should be identified by all the businessmen there. Now, as you know, when it comes to every transaction and event, there is a double entry now. That double entry should be identified by all the businessmen. So that is basically coming under business entity concept. And after that, accrual concept also very much essential for a business. So what do you mean by the accrual concept? So I'm not going to ask that accrual concept from anyone. I will explain. So accrual concept means simply whether you receive cash or not, the total amount receivable to your business will be treated as your income. And whether you paid or not, the total amount payable from your business will be treated as your expense. So that is the simple accrual concept. So that means you have to record your transactions not based on the cash basis, right? So that is the concept that we need to identify. Most of the business people recognize his transactions based on the cash position or based on the cash transactions. That is incorrect. It's not the correct profit. It should be the accrual profit or the accrual transaction, or the impact of accrual concept should be recognized when calculating the profitability. Now, let's say you sell something at a price of 5,000 baht, and let's say you sell something at a price of 5,000 after incurring a cost of 3,000. So that is very simple. The net profit would be 2,000. Now assume out of that 5,000 rupees, 3,000 will not be paid by the customer. So that means you are getting only 2,000 rupees. Now let's say you are asking from that seller, how much is your profit as of today? Then he might say, okay, I receive cash 2,000 and it cost me 2,000. Then there is no profit. So that's how most of the business people think. Now you go to Pamunua and ask, you go to Pamunua people and check. In Pamunua also they are selling on credit basis, but they don't know this accrual concept. That's why they say it's at a loss, because they are accounting based on or they are thinking of accounting based on the cash position or cash basis, not the accrual concept, right? These basic standards should be identified if you want to become a good businessman. And the importance of bookkeeping for small businesses or SMEs or startup businesses, right? So bookkeeping helps you to budget. So if you record all your expenses and if you record all your incomes, then you know how much is your profit. Then you know how to budget. Budget means you are going to put some sort of predictions to the next year. Then based on the financial figures of the current year, you are in a position to calculate the budgeted figures for the next year. If you do not recognize or if you do not record these transactions in your books, then you are not in a position to budget either for the next year, right? And tax preparation. Now we know after a startup, you can go up to 3-4 years without paying taxes. But at the end of some sort of day or in every year, the business registration division will be sending the business registration details to the Inland Revenue Department. So from that, they will be tracing whether this business, whether this started business, are they paying taxes or not. So from that, they will trace whether they are paying taxes or not, right? So then only our people following back towards accounting and financial records and everything. The business has been already started before 3-4 years, but no financial records. Then only they are running behind the financial reports, chasing behind some accountants and giving tips to them and to get some fraudulent financial reports like that. They are raising like that, right? That's not a good thing. So if you maintain good financial reports or if you maintain a better bookkeeping with your business premises, then you are in a good position to face with the tax. Either to pay tax or not to pay tax, that's their business. So you are in a good position to face with the tax authorities and the organization. Now, if you record all the transactions in a nice way, now you know what expenses need to be cut for the next year and what expenses need to be increased in order to grow up my business. Like that, you are in a position to organize your business. And business analysis is also the same. You are in a position to analyze your expenses and everything in your business. You know how much is your gross profit. You know how much is your operating profit. Everything that's too beyond. Or those analytics are a bit beyond the bookkeeping function. But still, you are in a good position to analyze those things and improve decision making. Now you know with bookkeeping and everything, you are in a good position to go for a bank loan. Now, let's say if you go to a bank and request for a bank loan, they are not giving bank loans without asking anything. If you also, even for a personal loan also, we need to provide our monthly pay slips, right? The salary slips, at least 3 months we need to provide and make sure whether I'm getting this much of a salary, so I'm in a position to repay the loan, right? So even for a bank loan also, even for a business also, they need to provide their financial information to the banks if you want to obtain a bank loan. Without those things, they are not going to give the bank loan, right? And that is for planning purpose and attracting investors. So if you are having good financial reports, good means well-maintained financial reports, then you can request some financial providers like the potential investors to come and invest in my business because I have a clear-cut financial information. Then there is no fraud within the business. So I can request some people to come and invest in my business, right? And the financial management. So that is also, I think I have already discussed. So now let's think about what do you mean by the financial reports? I was talking about those things. So when it comes to a set of financial statements, now you might have heard of the term annual report, right? Annual report is being printed by, now when it comes to every company, they have to print or they have to provide or else they have to release their annual reports. Now that annual report requirement is not only for all the companies, but for registered companies in the Colombo Stock Exchange. They have to provide their annual reports to the CSE, or they have to publish those things, right? So in that annual report, their financial records are drafted, right? So the financial statements means it composed of 5 things. Statement of comprehensive income, that is the profitability measurement, profit, how to calculate my profit. It is included in the income statement. And after that, statement of financial position, that includes my balance sheet and everything. This much of assets I am having as at that date, this much of resources I'm having, this much of liabilities I'm owing to pay, like that. And after that, equity statement. Now that is equity statement is not required for a sole proprietor business. Actually, when it comes to a startup business or a small and medium enterprise business, income statement and balance sheet is enough. But now when it comes to a set of financial statements, equity statement, cash flow statements, and other notes are also there. Now, this information, that income statement and balance sheet, we need to be adhere to prepare to our business, right? And after that, bookkeeping modules. So I was talking about the bookkeeping. Now you can maintain your books or you can maintain your financial reports in a handheld book as well. But now in our the business or the global trends has been increased, and we have separate technologies. So we can purchase some accounting softwares even without paying that much of money. So small cost, we have to invest in a small capital investment. So we have the products like Sage 50 and QuickBook and Xero, ACPAC, Myobi. So those are the famous bookkeeping or the accounting packages in Sri Lanka. So if you purchase those things, you don't need to worry. So you just have to record only the double entry. All the financial reports will be prepared automatically and the cash flows will be calculated automatically. So that will be very easy for you to handle your business. So you might have come across now when it comes to some supermarkets, they are having these bookkeeping functions. So their barcoding has been linked with that accounting package. So then once they issue something, automatically the double entry will be recorded. That is very easy. Even for a one person can handle the total function, right? So, but the tragic situation is our cultural people, not good to say like cultural, our traditional people do not willing to adapt themselves with the technology. So they are willing to go with the normal tradition. That's why the problem is, right? And after that, beyond that, accounting packages and bookkeeping packages, we have some enterprise resource planning modules as well. The term between accounting package and ERP is like ahasai polowai, right? So we cannot compare those things. So like when it comes to an ERP package, they are having like Sage 300 and SAP, Oracle, you might have heard those things. So it includes all the functionalities like purchasing and logistic and project management and human resource management, everything. So even 2 to 4 members of the public limited company also will be enough to handle all the functions of the business, right? So from my point of view, these basic information should be enlightened by the entrepreneurs of our country, or let's say the businessmen of our country for small and medium enterprises, if they want to grow up their startup business. So I think that's all about from my end. Then I think Akalanka can carry out the fundraising part. Akalanka?
Yeah, thanks, Supun. Thanks. And I would allow to have an interactive session in person, but because of the COVID and the situation, but the technology has made it possible. And given that right now, where I stays also, it would have been practically impossible. Let me share some of the slides. So whatever the things that I'm going to discuss, I will develop based on the sessions covered so far. And what Supun talked about, he covered a lot in with regards to his finance aspect. And firstly and foremostly, entrepreneurship is a very complex thing. It's interconnected. I'm not saying this to discourage. And at the end of the day, we would love to see at least 30+ entrepreneurs come into the stream of Sri Lankan business arena, because entrepreneurs are the most valuable segment for any country for many reasons, and some were outlined by Supun correctly. So at the end of the day, the result of this program, I assume that's what the organizers plan also. And covering this access to finance, I didn't want to go by the topic fundraising. It gives a different bit of a sense, a different bit of a meaning. So access to finance, the topic itself is such as having the access to finance. So for the scope of this program, the scope of the workshop, I'll keep it simple. Let's say access to money, access to cash. In terms of the topic, the access to finance, access to funds, access to money, it's a contextual thing. Why we call it a contextual thing? Didn't you have access to finance during your school days? I wish somewhat of interaction from the participants. During school days, nowadays, even the infants have the access to finance. How did you have the access to finance? I didn't go and borrow from bank, but I had the access to finance during my school days. I'm sure right now, even some of you do your own studies and not yet employed or haven't started own venture, but you have access to finance through your parents, direct access to your father's pocket, mom's wallet. Yeah, exactly. So it's a contextual thing. Right now, even you have access to finance, but in terms of the entrepreneurship, it's a different aspect. Now, even the fundraising, there are charities doing fundraising aspect. Now, even your club itself, I hope you do so many projects for the fundraising. Can yourself identify what is this difference of fundraising with regard to your charitable activities and with regard to the entrepreneurship, starting up a new business or running a business? Let's build on the entrepreneurship. It was anyway described and explained even in the previous day run by Supun. Now, entrepreneur is somebody who starts a business with the hope of making profit. So he has the idea of making profit. Is there any entrepreneur who's going to start a venture with the ambition of making some loss? I have 100,000. There is no way that I can spend, so I go and start a business expecting I will make a loss of 100,000. At the end of the day, I will come out nothing. Can I be called an entrepreneur? Exactly. So I can't be called because I don't have the ambition of making a profit. And when you need to have the access to finance, it should be a sustainable way. You don't look at a single transaction. Now, there are ways of making profit out of single transaction, and there are entrepreneurial aspects of it. But I would prefer to think it on the sustainable angle. You start a venture, you run it, and then you make profit. There are ventures you can start making profit first day itself. And some ventures, based on the context, based on the venture type and which venture you are into, it may take time and longer than some other industries, some other sectors, some other ventures. And the entrepreneurial aspect itself is making profit and how you have the access to funds, finance, money in terms of making this profit. So as I told you, and I would want you to look at in the entrepreneurial aspect, this access to finance, access to money, access to cash. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, access to finance is not just the money, because there are other assets also. Probably for your business, if somebody is going to give you a machine that you require for the production, is considered as having the access for the business that you require. In terms of the capital, the capital come in terms of money as well as other assets. For the context, again, I will keep it only for cash, only for money, the monetary aspect. And when you do a business, it's always tell cash is the key. So you need to treat cash as the king, and the due consideration should be given in terms of managing this. So when you are going to get the access to finance, as well as when it comes to managing the finance, is the same treatment should be made. The business survives on the revenue, but ultimately decide your worthiness. Profit is sanity, but cash is the king for in terms of running any business. So much vital for any enterprise in terms of that you need to have access to funds, access to cash. And in terms of this access to finance, you will get to know some of the aspects like financial inclusion in terms of some of the economic subjects and some other subjects. And access to finance is the very first step in financial inclusion. Also, the access to finance stimulates any economic growth, countries' development, as Supun mentioned, SME development, stimulation of that development happens through having mechanism for access to finance. So it becomes a national interest in that case, creating that environment that entrepreneurs have the access to finance, and there are initiatives and there are developments happening across the globe at national level, at country level, even by apex bodies. I will cover a few of those things as we progress. And as I mentioned, the difference between this and compared to the fundraising, I would say the fundraising can happen for a particular transaction. Like you do your projects at Achievers Business School, the Rotaract Club, you just raise funds targeting a single transaction, your project is completed, you are done. But when you want the funds for a business, it's a cyclical thing. You introduce funds, then you make some profit. Out of profit, maybe you repay or you may save and you may reinvest in the business. And this introduction of funds, introduction of capital is for a cyclical thing, mostly. There are entrepreneurial ventures, initiatives taken for single transaction, but as entrepreneurs, we need to look at always the sustainable aspect, the long term. I hope a session will be covered on the business planning and some strategy and strategic planning, long-term aspiration, objectives will be covered as the sessions progress. And so I want to build a couple of things on the entrepreneurship also. As Supun mentioned, the entrepreneurs, generally, they try to find solution for problems. It can be a new solution for an existing problem, or a same solution in a different way for an existing problem, or otherwise entrepreneurs may come out with a complete new problem. They introduce a problem, they don't say about that, but it may pitch the solution, and you may have to realize, okay, they are giving us a solution and there is a problem, they are covering through it. During COVID-19, there were the PCR testings happening, and all of a sudden I saw some of the advertisement maybe 3-4 months ago even. For the PCR testing, some of the people advertise they will come to your doorstep and do the PCR testing. So what's the problem? They did address through that. And during COVID, traveling is hard, not that easy. Social distancing and all the new concepts came on. And who came out with this were the hospitals itself. Even I saw some of the CAP services coming out with the concept of coming to your doorstep. So they go and may come into some interorganizational strategic alliance or arrangements with the private hospital or some hospital, and they just bring the health personnel to your doorstep to do that. They don't even do that. They just arrange the transport, but they give you a solution. You don't need to go out of house. We'll come to your home. So those are the things that you have to think in terms of the entrepreneurship, whether it's giving a solution for an existing problem, either doing the same solution in a different way, or yourself find a new problem. You introduce a solution, but it addresses a new problem. It creates a new problem. Even if you go through the insurance market, how it transformed to the level in Sri Lanka, let's say about 2 decades ago, if somebody tells about you, okay, you have the risk of dying at 30 years age or 40 years age, how the people would have accepted it. Will you like if somebody come and say, look, you may die? How the people will accept it? That's the idea behind insurance, right? They sell insurance thinking, okay, you have your life risk, take the insurance. Invariably, they say you may die early and you get yourself covered. And they give a solution for one of the very difficult questions that somebody can use answers because of the cultural aspect and the way we accept the living and the life and how we value the living and how we value the life. But still, selling insurance, I can remember some of those advertisements, they're nicely pitched. Think about your kids. In a way, they give you the message. So I'm coming little back to this topic. Let me check the slides. I'm a little stuck. And let me come back to the main one, access to finance. So access to finance mainly is three types. It can be debt finance, it can be equity finance, or a hybrid model. I will go in detail somewhat of it. I may not go detail in some of it based on the context of the Sri Lankan practical aspect. What is the most risk-free method of financing? That's funding by yourself. You can run the risk, you can fund the business, you run on your risk, but risk-free in terms of you don't have to go outside and borrow. You can run on your risk. In terms of the applications of funds, it's risk-free. You run the entire risk of the business, that's a different thing. But there is no covenants or conditions coming from whoever who give money. You have your own funds. You can do whatever you want. And with regard to this self-funding, which is called bootstrapping also, and it may be the funds coming from your parents, friends, and ones who give you unconditionally. There may be instances there where the conditions can apply. You have to give them a profit sharing or some interest, some compensation in terms of interest, or some other means at the end of the period. Then comes the second thing, the external borrowing. You go to the bank or you go to a financial sector or borrow, and which is the formal borrowing. Or otherwise, informally, you do to money lenders or some other personnel who are into money lending business, not registered informal market. Then product pre-selling orders. Sometimes you can secure the order upfront if it is to production venture you are into. And from that upfront advance payments or the funds, you can run the process and sell it and get it covered. And you, whatever the profit margin, you can run the same way for the cyclical operational aspect, the continuation. And also it can be the orders, and especially in terms of IT field, the margins are very high. Initial payment can be covered through some agreement or advance payment. You are getting that the funds required to start up the venture, kickstart it, or in your terms, jumpstart the venture. And the other means there are grants and support from government institutes, multilateral agencies like ADB. There are even right now ongoing schemes, ongoing programs like that, giving grants. There were some grants given under Agriculture Ministry now for that industrial specific, sector specific ventures. And even ADB gave some women-led enterprises who started new ventures. But only thing is there will be some compliance and formalities required to secure the grants or secure the funding through such schemes and programs. And one of the things that will be looked at it, having a sound business work plan, which will be covered in the future sessions, and somewhat of some preparation of financials, and Supun covered somewhat aspect of it. One of the important thing is that securing finance, especially from outside borrowers and these grants given by government or the multilateral agencies, you may require to have some numbers. And for that, keeping the bookkeeping, maybe your business is just to start at that stage, it will be the forecast, but you need to have some number preparation. Then there are angel investors, and in addition to the finance, they may give the mentoring service and advisors alongside the capital. And then there are venture capital firms in Sri Lanka, highly active, 3 or 4 venture capital companies are there. And in a venture capital, there may be a partner coming to your business with the agreement of profit sharing. The disadvantage for an entrepreneur is that somewhat a share may let have go, because that person who is coming with the funds or who is coming with the market, new markets presence or the new markets reach may ask for some share of the business. And then funding from business incubators and accelerators. I heard Vinu saying that during this, for the participants coming up with some business ideas, feasible business ideas, the investors will be connected, will be introduced. So it's like that. Incubators and accelerators, they fund for the business, or start the business, or even to accelerate, have that leap jump in the commercial world. And have you seen some of the contests where you can pitch your business idea and win some prizes, especially cash amount giving, some fintechs? I know some of the so much of private universities now used to conduct. With the COVID, I think that would have reduced much to a great extent. But there were some fintechs. I think I also took part in a couple of fintechs. And they give, as a team, you may come up with a feasible new startup idea, and you have to conceptualize it and present it. And if you win, you get some cash prize to make it materialized, to put your plan into action. And also crowdfunding, not much famous, not much popular in Sri Lanka, but that's also a mean that you can get the access to finance or raise funds. And in crowdfunding, if you have a business idea or something, now you have all the access through social media, you can just throw your idea and see whether there are investors or people willing to invest in your idea or get rallied around you to run that as a venture. And one of the other things, other than the financing through crowdfunding, these testing, you can test the market. You can test whether your idea is going to be a doable thing, a workable thing, and as mentioned earlier, whether it's a profitable thing, whether you can make enough, whether you will get enough market size for your idea, product, service, whatever it is. Any clarifications required? Any questions so far? In terms of the borrowing of the banks, and sometimes people say, okay, I have the idea, but I don't have a collateral. And collateral is not the main thing in lending, and it's actually the cash flows. How much of cash flows you can generate in terms of to service the debt or the external borrowing that you're going to get. And I will not go that detail. There are so many instruments and types the bank use to finance even the startups. And for your homework, you can search and see there is a product called factoring, which is actually not based on the strength of the borrower, but based on debtors of the particular client. So that's a way of sometimes getting the finance. I'll keep it as some work for you in terms of some financial stuff. There are so many instruments and types used in banking terms and in banking environment. The banks use, and even some of the banks, especially the specialized banks, they have the scope, they are within their framework. Specifically, the funds are there. There are refinance schemes, there are interest subsidy scheme, refinance schemes, and interest subsidy scheme. In terms of the end borrower, if I am an entrepreneur, if I am the end customer, the borrower, it facilitates credit facilities at lower rates, like 4%, 6%. I can borrow at low rates, despite the market rates being high. Market rates may be around 8%, 10%. Right now it's about 10 to 12%, and it increased about 2%. But still, through these schemes, I may be able to borrow at 4%, 6%. I don't know whether you have heard of a scheme called Shakti. And that was initiated during previous government, and it was purely targeted for new startup business. And it came up with a grant also. So you don't have to repay the entire amount. 20% was given as a grant. Balance 80% only came as a debt. So you had only to pay about 80% debt. And I would like to know from someone. Sorry, Vinuri.
Before we move along, there's a question in the chat box saying, asking to explain business incubators again.
All right. Business incubators, now Vinuri, you can tell that. Now, I heard that you are going to get some investors introduced for the feasible business ideas. So what they will do? They will incubate these business ideas. Yes. So they will take care of your ideas. They will give you the necessary advices, directions, guidelines. Sometimes you may have just the idea. You may not have a market. You may not have to delivery channels or something to reach the customers. And all those things, they will provide the guidelines. Basically, they will nurture you and nurse your ideas. Incubators are the ones who are going to take care of your idea, like taking care of as an impact. Hope that is answered, Vinuri. Shall I proceed?
Yes, I hope the question is answered.
Yeah.
We can proceed.
Can someone tell me anyone who knows this person is one of the leading entrepreneurs in the global context? I will make it easy for you. The founder of Virginia Group.
Robin.
It's answered in the chat, Richard Branson. Yes, it's Richard Branson. And he is the founder of Virginia Group. If it is not the leading investment group right now, one of the leading investment groups across the globe. And do you know what was his first venture? Virginia into many. Anyone who knows what was his first venture, first business? He has Virginia Airlines, he has hotel chains, he has so many, he has studios, he was into this music. Now, he about 3-4 years ago, he started even a spaceships project. All right, how many of you know the business model of Sadaharita or Tachut? That's the concept of Sadaharita or Tachut. You can invest with them. They guarantee you a return in maybe 20 years' time. They assume whatever the amounts that you put with them, they will invest in cultivation of teak or some other trees that will have a value for timber, and they assume a return for that. And with that idea, you can go and invest in them. That's a business model of Tachut and Sadaharita. And do you know this guy used to do that when he was just 8 or 10 years old? And during January, February, March, he may get funds from the neighbors saying, I will deliver you a Christmas tree by December. Imagine about his entrepreneurial idea. That's okay, delivering a Christmas tree. But look at how innovative he has been in terms of finding finance for it. I want a Christmas tree by December. In February, I go and finance this kid who is just 8-10 years old. And for his own business to cultivate Christmas trees, he used his backyard for cultivating Christmas trees. The trees used for Christmas trees during the Christmas season. And his finance upfront. So there is no concrete answer in the entrepreneurship, and even in terms of the finding finance for it, and how innovative you are, make it easy for you, the journey. And it applies across the entrepreneurship, not in terms of having access to finance. And I just wanted to share his view, because when you're in your entrepreneurial journey, it is a novel thing, it's a unique thing, it's your journey, it's a unique thing for you, for sure. But there are the other ones who have walked the same path, who have gone through the same difficulty, And just looking at them, you can learn a lesson or two. And it will expedite your journey because your journey is unique to you. The problems that you come across, the answers that you had to find are definitely unique to you. But these, when you come across these things, they will definitely provide you insights how to tackle those things, sometimes to avoid some other risks, and sometimes to welcome some other opportunities with taking more risks. And so in that case, I suggest you may read some of those entrepreneurs whenever you find time, how rosy or how difficult their paths have been. No, maybe you have the access to finance, but it's also vital to consider these things that are obtaining finance. Just because of it's available and okay, you have your own funds. And just by starting a venture, you maybe just see the balance going down if you don't give a due consideration for it. And initially, the business itself, whether you need, is it a necessity? Do you need? It is really required to have cash, money. Some businesses are there, you can start without much need of cash, without much need of funds. And you have to ensure, is it really necessary thing? Now, suppose for the production, if you can get a machine from somebody else, do you need cash first? Do you need to purchase the machine for yourself first? If you can run it on rent or something, those things can be considered, then actual requirement. And this is not, as mentioned by Supun also, this is not something that you need to spend lavishly. And go once, twice, thrice, even more than that to cut down the list only to the essential expenses. You minimize that you spend, because ultimately by starting a venture, you are running a risk. Keep the risk to the minimum. Make it a calculated risk. And then the timing of the finance. Do you require it from the first day itself, or there may be some planning process, there may be some market research process, market scouting, at what point I need to have access to finance? Is it from 1 month's time? Whenever you introduce even your own funds, it has a cost. Money has a cost. So do you need to run that cost unnecessary? Then repayment, especially in case of if you borrow, maybe it comes from external formal sector or somebody known to you, and you will have to pay. You have to keep in mind, I have to pay. Pay by when? By at that time, will I have a return from my business? As I mentioned, the return, actual existence, whether it's sufficient, how long will it take to pay back? In that aspect, you need to plan both the return versus repayment line. And it's in other words, it's the cash flow management. I told cash is the king. You have to manage it as you are managing a king. And cash flow management is vital for any stage of any business, let alone the startups. And the opportunity cost. Now you're going to start a venture and you put your money. You need to run risk. Entrepreneurs, I value it. I respect it. You need to run a risk for sure. And just because of saying that, don't stop it and go put in the bank. But if you put in the bank without any risk, you get 8% return. When you think of making a profit, at least you should think of making something beyond 8% in the long run. As you proceed, as you go with the venture, okay, I will make enough money more than that. Because if you have money and it's on your money that you're going to invest in your business, and if it doesn't give that return, without a risk, if you can get a higher return, then I don't think it's been entrepreneur. Clear? Any questions? Any clarifications? So as I told you, it's not only about having access for finance. It's also so vital to use it wisely and effectively. Now, you just get some capital. Maybe it's a grant or something. If you spend your 50%, 60% for infrastructure just to decorate it without really thinking of what is my core business, where I'm going to generate the cash. Have you seen how many office spaces are in Colombo? Empty, no customers, no real product to sell, but you have a very high prime address for your business. Do you want to have a prime address for your business? And I'm not saying no, because some of the business, you need to understand what is your business idea and how you are going to make profit, how you're going to generate revenue or profit, how you're going to make profit out of it. What is your core business? What is your unique selling proposition? If your prime address is the USP, if your decorated building is the USP, you have to invest in it. Sure, no doubt. But it is not the case for most of the ventures. How many offices now? So many people used to run the corporate offices. With the COVID, I think the mindset changed somewhat. But most of the addresses, people always look for prime addresses for metro areas, lavish office spaces, prime addresses. But from suburb, for especially this IT sector, from suburb, you can just rent out a house or something for your business at a very low price. So that's where you think as an entrepreneur and keep deploying the funds wisely and effectively. You need to think about the return that you're going to get out of it. As I told, if it is aligned to USP, yes, that's all right. But what is your USP? You have to understand. But you have to understand your core business and then only align the funds for the core business purpose. And it's safe. When you put the cash to a business that's going to generate return. And where where the balance will grow exponentially. And if you want to attract more people or as investors, even if you want the banks to lend, to whom the bank will lend? The people who manage cash, in a way, it will grow exponentially. And so getting access as well as managing cash is so vital. And it's all about financial discipline. You need to have financial discipline as entrepreneurs. Financial literacy is so important to have. And in Sri Lanka, although can somebody tell what is meant by literacy? Our definition is a very outdated one, though, in Sri Lanka. At least in chat box. Ability to write and read. We have transformed to a technological era where everything is done on digitally, but still we keep our literacy definition as write or read. Ability to write and read. And we have nearly 100%, 99% or something, who can write and read. But our financial literacy, what do you guess? What is our percentage in Sri Lanka? Are we savvy? Or are we okay? Or it's about 35%. It's about 35%. So we can read and write, but we don't understand how to manage cash. And this financial literacy is not about just pertaining to entrepreneurs, but also as a nation. So that's one reason why we are still poor, why we are still developing as a country. Because the first thing that we do is, even when you get a debt, next day we throw a party. Now, even you may start a venture, next day your friends will come asking for a party. Whatever that amount that you get as a capital, good amount go to throw that party for the expenses of the party. So think wisely and apply the funds effectively is what really matters. You need to have that skill in managing the funds and having one. So when you think about the cash, every time, even you may become an entrepreneur, or you may not become an entrepreneur, but still this cash management, fund management, how wisely you use your cash, may it be your salary, how wisely you deploy it, all this is going to matter to see where you are ending up, where you are heading for. And one more thing also I wanted to cover now, I'm going to mention about the financial account keeping. And as a business, you need to know whether you are making enough profit or not. The return the return what I mentioned earlier. For that, you need to keep some financial records. All the people don't love numbers. All the people are not number savvy, or they are not financially savvy. But this is so important to keep the numbers, record the numbers, and see whether you are making sufficient return, and whether is it as per your plans, as your inspirations, and whether there are any opportunity loss just because of investing in your venture. Are there ways that you can minimize the cost or maximize the return? And then for budgetary purpose, you need to have a budget. As an entrepreneur, keep it to the budget in terms of the growth as well as management of cost and cash funds. And in the other thing is when it's come to the securing a loan, securing a debt from the banks, they will definitely ask for the financial records. And that may happen once you have started a business and you have run for a while your enterprise. And so we can go to the Q&A session, but before that, I want to, I told you, some people tend to spend lavishly on the premises, prime address, everything. Now this is Google headquarters. Do you think Google started in the same way when they started? Right now, a Fortune business in US? Yeah, they didn't. Do you know anybody else who is really started? Maherna. So the replies in the chat. Hope I pronounced the name correctly. Do you know how they started? Where they started? Now you can come to that level. You can have decorated offices. You can have a prime address, but it matters getting the business to that level before making it to that level first day itself. Entrepreneurs need to have a dream. They need to have a dream. They need to have that fire. They need to have passion, but they need to understand also it takes time to get there. It's not a one-day thing. Some people may have money to set up an office like this on the very first day itself, but they may not have a business to keep it in sustainable manner, run the office as a venture, as a business. And I'll show you, actually, this Google started in garage. Not only Google started in garage, you would have heard Apple started in a garage. Garage and this entrepreneurial thing has a big connection, especially in terms of these Fortune companies. Even Amazon has started in a part of their own house. So, and in terms of the access to finance, you have many means. It's all about how you assess it, all about how effectively you use it. And there, as I mentioned, one of the sessions we cover the business plan. So how we are going to pitch it to secure it. And once getting it, it's all up to you to make the funds deployed wisely and effectively and the most suitable way. And there is no real concrete answer because venture to venture, they diverse in many aspects. Many scenarios are there for any venture. Maybe the same business you're into, but your segments may differ. The supply chain may be different. The value chain or the outreach, the marketing means that you use may differ. So no two businesses are identical. So the deployment of the funds may not require to be identical. But the fundamental things are there, keeping the financial discipline. We really hope we can move to the Q&A session. Let me check the time.
Yes, of course. If there's anything that you want to ask from our speakers, now is the time. You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can direct your question in the chat box. I do have one question. This for Mr. Akalanka. This may sound a little bit controversial as well, but when it comes to looking for funds for your business, so people go to different methods. So there might be like instances where people, may go to, go in like, go for unconventional methods or go into the wrong path. So when it comes to that, how do you like properly differentiate if this is the correct method of going for funds? Any tips you can give us on that?
Yes. Now, unconventional things, what do you mean? Is it going to the money lenders?
Yeah, probably.
Yes. Now, when you really take the informal path, actually, even Sri Lankan context, still the informal credit is very high. Informal cover is very high compared to the formal sector coverage. When you go to the informal part itself, the problem is anyway is costly. You have a high interest rate, high charge, high fee, and they may give it at a discount even. Maybe you borrow 100,000, they may give you just 90,000, 10,000 already upfront deducted, but you will have to pay 100,000. The charge can become in different forms. Maybe a 5% interest rate per month. And I heard some charging 10% interest rate per month. So that itself is a discourage factor for people who borrow. And as I said, the financial literacy as a society level, why it's so important is if you know that there are means of going to the formal sector, what are the things that I have to fulfill, and definitely you can borrow it as a lower cost. If you can borrow at a lower cost, it's a lower burden that you have. More you can invest in, maybe you borrow for your business purpose, more money you can reinvest because you don't have to pay out a lot as interest and other charges. And the main differentiation part is if you know the other means now in formal sector, and the thing is when you say the startup is perceived by the banks. I work in the banking sector, so the banks perceived it as little risky than established business. It's a riskier thing. And with the COVID and the bad experiences we had with regard to non-performing facilities, especially 2016 to 2018 tenor, during that period, so much of the business not performing, so much of business going out of the market. And banks also are reluctant. The financials also have to play a part in that case, not only the entrepreneurs. One thing, entrepreneurs, they don't take the right path, right channel to reach the formal sector where you can borrow or where you can secure funds, secure financing. On the other side, the supply side. Supply side also has a problem. They see it as high risky, perceive as high risky, so they don't do. It doesn't mean there are no financials like Regional Development Bank, RDB. As I said, the specialized banks, especially RDB, STB, they have their own schemes purely targeting these startups, new ventures. And now the Shakti was a scheme like that. Primary industries have their own schemes giving support. There is a separate section in primary section who really go through those ideas and give their support. And if it is export related business, you can go to the export development board. They have they even may not require borrowing from them because they sometimes provide the grants based on the feasibility of the idea. But it's about getting your business idea concise and having a solid business plan and pitching it. That will be covered later, I think, through the session. With regard to your question of the segregation part, conventional and unconventional, in some of the tips is if you really look at what the cost that you have to bear, that's the basic thing. It gives you the idea whether it's coming through the convenience or conventional or unconventional means. And the other thing is the terms and conditions aspect and the speediness, everything may be unconventional methods may come at a faster speed, but you have a price to pay for it. And conventional may not come with covenants and conditions. They will just give the funds. They may not come and check whether you have started the business, whether you have invested in the purpose that you mentioned. They not come and check. But it's there is pros and cons of both. But for entrepreneur, I think you have a purpose. You have a purpose for which you can convince the lenders. So taking the conventional mean is always the recommended. As a bridging thing, if you see the funds are coming, sometimes you may have to go for unconventional methods, sometimes, but although not recommended, as I say, the timing matters a lot also in terms of this financing. May it be in a week that you require funds, you need to have the funds in week time. You don't have to have it today. And just because you are not getting the funds, you may also lose the opportunity. You have to take all those things into your context in this building the scenario and the business plan. Always recommended to go for the conventional methods and interest rate and the conditions and those segregate between conventional and unconventional. Any other elaborations you require, Vinri, or is that good enough?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Because that's some area that people really get into trouble when it comes to
Yeah. No, even if you have any other areas to be cleared out, especially in the practical aspect, practical context, and any other, I just touched the surfaces, and most of the things didn't want to go deep because entrepreneurship itself, as I told, is a very complicated and interconnected thing. I'm not discouraging anyone, but it's like doing all the subjects together and applying all the knowledge together. Although we told this financial discipline, financial access to finance, and these accounting and things separately, when you really become entrepreneur, you have to put all the hats at once.
Yes.
Marketing, HR, you name it, you have to do it.
We have another question. Can you explain why sole traders run on cash basis and why should they run on accrual basis?
Sole traders, what is meant by sole traders? Now, when you start at small level and all those things, what does really define the subsistence of the business? If you don't have absorbers to absorb, what really define the subsistence of a business? Is it profit or is it liquidity? In short run, the existence of the companies, enterprises are defined by the liquidity. Can somebody tell me what is liquidity? You are the only one who is at least speaking. You can tell what the liquidity is.
Okay, we have an answer. Okay, someone saved me.
Yeah, now I am given a banking answer. Actually, for me, liquidity is ability to generate cash on demand. You need to pay short-term debts. Yeah, you need to have cash. Short-term debt payment is not the only thing that you need to have cash. You may have salary payments, you may have to pay rent, and so whatever the other obligations, and even to run operations daily basis, you require cash. Liquidity is that ability to generate cash on demand. So in the short term,
the amount of cash you have in hand.
It may be in hand, it may be in the bank, it may be in FD, it may be in something, but you should be able to generate cash on demand. Maybe it's a loan facility that you can draw. Still, you haven't drawn the loan facility, you have a loan facility for your name at your will, you can draw it like overdraft, arrange overdraft. So it is the ability to generate cash on demand, and it defines the subsistence of a business. Now, in terms of a new enterprise, and for them, cash is the main thing. And accrual basis, what does it really you get to? You check your profitability, whether you make profit or not. Profitability is so vital in the long run. You have to make profit. That's the hope of the entrepreneur, the core objective, the key objective. But to get to that, you need to have cash. Why the sole traders run on cash basis? Answer is simple, not much asset base or not much thing. They need to run the business day to day. And they need to have cash to run their business day to day. Is the answer good enough, Mahendra? I don't know whether I'm pronouncing his or her name right or wrong. I'm not sure. Is that answer good enough? Accrual base is different. Is you may not have some of the expenses and the income that come to you, but you recognize them as income or expenses, like prepayments, like advance payments. But to run your business, you need to get the cash. You need to have the cash. So they prepare everything, budgeting and everything for cash. I hope the response came as okay. I think the explanation given is okay. Any other questions?
We can give another minute or two if you have any questions that you need clarified from our speakers before wrapping up.
Yeah, another thing is even if they need some areas to be cleared, areas to be explained, or some further reading, or some further understanding, or something, probably they can refer you, and you can direct those to us.
If there aren't any questions. All right, before we wrap up, this small time of yours is dedicated towards our banking partner, Bank of
Now all my bill payments are right at my fingertips.
I'm in touch with my BOC card whenever, wherever.
BOC Smart Online Banking creates time for the important things in life while your banking is done securely with ease and speed, wherever you may be.
With that, we can wrap up today's workshop session on finance, bookkeeping, and fundraising. So a special thanks goes out to our speakers today, Mr. Supun Kavindra and Mr. Akalanka Ranathunga, for joining with us, mark their busy schedules, to educate us on this topic of finance, bookkeeping, and fundraising. So how to effectively handle finance and how to effectively and conventionally use finance and how to do fundraising. So we hope that this session was valuable for you as it was valuable for us. And a couple of announcements that I have to make before we wrap up for today. So Jumpstart is mainly consists of two main categories, that is Pitch It, Win It and Shark Tank. And we have open registrations for Pitch It, Win It. And all the links that you have to register are given in the chat box, where you can, if you have a business idea that you need validation of, if you're interested in participating in the competition, you may register yourself under Pitch It, Win It. And also we have more workshops coming on. This is the third workshop, and altogether there are 7 workshops. So for future workshops, you may register through the same link. The link is given in the chat box. It directs you to one single platform where you have all the options there. So for more information on Jumpstart 2021, you may visit our blog link. The link is also given in the chat box. So we are taking a short break during this weekend, and we are going to meet you again on Monday with the workshop of legal aspects and business registration. So we are moving on to the legal side of entrepreneurship on Monday. So we hope you all join with us on that workshop as well. And also special thanks to our knowledge partner, Sastaka Council Foundation, for connecting us with valuable resource personnel for Jumpstart 2021. So see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Good night.